Henyard says she is endorsing a new board, but not announcing who they are just yet, instead promising to name them later this month. Henyard is under investigation by the FBI.
Federal agents arrested Tiffany Henyard, the controversial mayor of Dolton and supervisor of Thornton Township, in a shocking turn of events that has left the community reeling. Known for branding herself the super mayor, Henyard's leadership has long been a source of division, marked by heated board meetings, public confrontations, and allegations of corruption, abuse of power, and questionable decision-making. While rumors of an FBI investigation had circulated for months, few expected such a sudden escalation. Her critics, who have repeatedly accused her of reckless and self-serving behavior, now feel vindicated, while her loyal supporters are struggling to make sense of the situation, defending her character and urging patience as the legal process unfolds. The arrest has thrown Dolton and Thornton Township into uncertainty, with the community left wondering about the future of its leadership. Tiffany Henyard, the ambitious yet polarizing mayor of Dolton and supervisor of Thornton Township, now finds herself at the center of a federal investigation that has left both communities grappling with shock, anger, and uncertainty. Her tenure has been anything but quiet, defined by bold and often controversial decisions that earned her both praise and condemnation. From allegations of excessive spending on personal luxuries to the contentious appointment of an unqualified police chief, Henyard has consistently been at the heart of political and public firestorms. Despite this, she maintained a defiant public image, dismissing criticism as politically motivated and portraying herself as a trailblazer facing unjust opposition. Her arrest, however, shifts the narrative from political drama to legal reckoning, with critics hailing it as justice served and supporters calling it a politically driven takedown of a leader who defied traditional norms. The sudden absence of Henyard's leadership has plunged Dolton and Thornton Township into a crisis, as residents are left questioning what comes next and how local government will stabilize. Once seen as a larger-than-life super mayor, Henyard's legacy now faces an uncertain future, with her reputation hanging in the balance.
At 6, embattled Dolton Mayor Tiffany Henyard is mounting a re-election bid. Henyard made the announcement in a post on her Facebook.
To understand the dramatic downfall of Mayor Tiffany Henyard, it's essential to retrace the chaotic series of events that may have sealed her fate. From the moment she assumed office as mayor of Dolton and supervisor of Thornton Township, Henyard's tenure was marked by relentless controversy, polarizing the community and drawing intense scrutiny from critics and watchdogs alike. Her audacious and unapologetic leadership style quickly became a lightning rod for criticism, with allegations of corruption, misuse of taxpayer funds, and abuse of power surfacing as persistent themes. Reports of extravagant spending, including luxury travel, lavish events, and questionable personal expenses, sparked public outrage, with many residents accusing her of prioritizing self-interest over public service. Further intensifying the backlash were her controversial appointments of unqualified individuals to key positions, which fueled claims of cronyism and incompetence. These missteps, combined with her defiant stance against critics, set the stage for the legal reckoning that now threatens to overshadow her once influential reign as the self-proclaimed super mayor. Mayor Tiffany Henyard's leadership, once defined by boldness and audacity, ultimately became her undoing as allegations of corruption, abuse of power, and financial misconduct eroded public trust and amplified calls for accountability. Throughout her tenure as mayor of Dolton and supervisor of Thornton Township, Henyard maintained a defiant stance, dismissing criticism as politically motivated attacks and portraying herself as a trailblazer unfairly targeted by adversaries. However, accusations of mismanagement, misuse of taxpayer funds, and backroom deals only grew louder, culminating in an FBI investigation that quietly built momentum over months, if not years. The investigation probed claims of financial misconduct, improper use of township resources, and questionable ethical practices, further intensifying public scrutiny. Heated board meetings became battlegrounds, with fiery exchanges between Henyard and trustees exposing deep divisions within the community. While her supporters praised her for her bold vision and unyielding leadership, her critics viewed her actions as reckless and self-serving. In the end, the same audacity that once set her apart ultimately fueled the political storm that consumed her leadership and left her legacy in question. The bold moves that once defined Mayor Tiffany Henyard's leadership ultimately became the very issues that led to her downfall. Her dramatic arrest by federal agents marked a shocking climax to a saga that had gripped Dolton and Thornton Township for years. What began as a tenure marked by audacity and ambition unraveled under the weight of allegations of corruption, financial misconduct, and abuse of power. Henyard's downfall now stands as a cautionary tale of how unchecked ambition, without accountability and transparency, can spiral into chaos and collapse. For the community, it's a moment of reckoning, a time to reflect on the turbulent legacy of a leader whose meteoric rise and dramatic fall have left an indelible mark on the township's history.
Till 2025, yet Tiffany Henyard has officially decided she wants to stay as mayor despite the cloud of controversy.
The arrest of Mayor Tiffany Henyard, Thornton Township supervisor and self-proclaimed supermayor, unfolded early in the morning at her Dolton home, marking a shocking and pivotal moment in a saga that has gripped the south suburbs for years. Witnesses described a dramatic scene as federal agents swarmed the property, with some noting the presence of her boyfriend, Kamal Woods, who has faced his own share of controversies. Woods reportedly looked on as Henyard was taken into custody, the culmination of years of swirling allegations and a mounting federal investigation into her administration. While the exact charges remain undisclosed, sources close to the probe suggest they may include embezzlement, misuse of public funds, and obstruction of justice linked to her handling of Dolton and Thornton Township finances. Henyard's arrest marks the most dramatic development yet in a long-running saga of power, controversy, and scandal. The arrest of Mayor Tiffany Henyard, a significant development in an ongoing federal investigation, has sent shockwaves through the region's political landscape. To grasp the gravity of this moment, one must look back at the trail of controversies that have followed Henyard since she took office in 2021. From the outset, her leadership was marked by a bold, larger-than-life persona. Refusing to be seen as just a mayor or township supervisor, she dubbed herself the Super Mayor, a title she proudly displayed on banners, billboards, and social media posts. Her face became a constant presence throughout Dolton and Thornton townships, featured on promotional materials, event flyers, and even village welcome signs. While her supporters celebrated her as a dynamic, accessible leader, her critics accused her of self-promotion and misusing public resources to fuel her personal brand. This stark divide in public perception set the stage for the dramatic events that have since unfolded. Despite accusations of self-promotion, Mayor Tiffany Henyard consistently dismissed her critics with characteristic confidence, often proclaiming herself the people's mayor and the people's supervisor. Her charisma and public presence drew both admiration and criticism, but as her tenure progressed, her legacy became increasingly defined by controversies that extended far beyond her branding. Allegations of financial misconduct, including lavish spending on personal luxuries and questionable use of public funds, fueled growing public distrust. Her ambitious and defiant leadership style frequently placed her at odds with trustees and community members, with heated board meetings becoming a hallmark of her administration. Meanwhile, a quietly building federal investigation into the misuse of Dolton and Thornton Township funds, as well as allegations of obstruction of oversight, eventually culminated in her dramatic arrest, a turning point in a saga that has left the community grappling with uncertainty and reflection on her turbulent legacy. The arrest of Mayor Tiffany Henyard marks a dramatic turning point in a leadership defined by audacity, controversy, and deep community polarization. For some, it is a moment of vindication. For others, it is the tragic downfall of a leader who once promised to break barriers and connect with her constituents. Her fall from grace has left the south suburbs grappling with uncertainty as they await details of the charges against her. As the saga continues to unfold, Henyard's legacy hangs in the balance, with each passing day adding new layers to a story that has captivated and divided the community. Allegations of luxury travel and personal indulgences funded by public resources continued to surface, fueling widespread outrage. One of the most contentious projects under Henyard's leadership was the infamous $2 million skating rink, which many residents argued was constructed without proper approval or transparency. Critics labeled it more of a vanity project than a community asset, pointing out that the rink seemed to only open during events hosted by Henyard herself, further stoking accusations that it served her personal ambitions rather than the broader needs of Dolton. For her detractors, the rink became a symbol of her alleged misuse of taxpayer money to fund initiatives that bolstered her public image, rather than addressing practical community needs. However, Henyard's supporters defended the project, arguing that it was a valuable addition to the township and an investment in local recreation. Despite the division, the controversy surrounding the rink highlighted the deepening mistrust and polarization that marked her time in office.
Business in Thornton Township, which hit a roadblock tonight, not because of the weather, not because of logistics, but because two trustees refused.
Behind Tiffany Henyard's flashy image and bold claims of being the super mayor lies a troubling pattern of alleged financial mismanagement that raised serious concerns about her leadership from the early days of her tenure. Reports of questionable spending began to surface, painting a picture of extravagance and potential misuse of public funds. One of the most shocking allegations was a $43,000 shopping spree on Amazon in a single day, allegedly charged to village accounts, which left both residents and critics stunned. The purchases, which included high-end furniture and other unexplained expenses, became a focal point for those questioning her stewardship of taxpayer money. This was not an isolated incident, as additional reports of extravagant spending and questionable financial decisions continued to emerge, further eroding trust in her leadership. Henyard's supporters maintained that her intent was to bring improvements in amenities to the community, arguing that her bold approach was misunderstood by her critics. However, the financial controversies and accusations of reckless spending created a troubling backdrop for her administration, eroding trust among residents and attracting increased scrutiny from auditors and watchdogs. As more details of her spending came to light, board meetings became more heated, with trustees and residents demanding answers and greater accountability. The allegations of unchecked spending and the growing perception that public funds were being misused for personal or vanity projects became central to the mounting criticism of her leadership. The perception that public funds were being diverted for personal or vanity projects became central to the growing criticism of Henyard's leadership. While her defenders continued to emphasize her charisma and vision for community improvement, her detractors pointed to the mounting evidence of financial mismanagement as a sign of deeper issues within her administration. These controversies, coupled with her defiant responses to critics and her combative relationship with other local officials, set the stage for the federal investigation that would ultimately lead to her arrest. It marked a dramatic fall for a leader once celebrated for her audacity and ambition.
Prevented Supervisor Tiffany Henyard from filing a vacancy on the board. So what is going on and why the power?
Tiffany Henyard's leadership style, as contentious as her spending habits, became a hallmark of her administration, raising eyebrows and deepening divisions from the outset. Regular clashes with the Dolton Village Board of Trustees set the tone for a turbulent period in local governance, with meetings often devolving into shouting matches. Trustees frequently accused Henyard of overstepping her authority, while she retaliated with accusations of sabotage and obstruction. One particularly chaotic meeting saw Henyard storm out after being heckled by both residents and trustees, shouting, "You all should be ashamed of yourselves," before leaving the room. These moments painted the picture of a leader who viewed herself as under siege, battling not only her critics, but seemingly the entire political establishment. Her combative approach extended beyond boardrooms, becoming a defining feature of her tenure. Henyard's public persona spilled over into social media platforms, where she frequently aired grievances and targeted her opponents through fiery Facebook Live broadcasts. In these online tirades, Henyard would call out her critics by name, accusing them of jealousy, personal grudges, and attempting to undermine her leadership. In one particularly inflammatory broadcast, she labeled her detractors as enemies of progress and ominously vowed to expose every single one of them. These online confrontations drew mixed reactions. Supporters rallied behind her boldness, praising her for taking the fight to her opponents, while critics questioned her professionalism and the appropriateness of using public forums for personal attacks. Meanwhile, some residents expressed fear of retaliation, alleging that Henyard weaponized her influence to silence dissent. Allegations also emerged that she strategically used lawsuits and public pressure to intimidate those who challenged her leadership. Henyard was accused of using public shaming and even township resources to target those who dared to challenge her authority. Whether proven or not, these claims contributed to an atmosphere of tension and mistrust, where opposition was often met with fierce, personal responses. While her supporters framed her actions as those of a passionate leader fighting for progress in the face of relentless obstruction, her critics argued that her leadership style was divisive, unprofessional, and ultimately damaging to the community. The escalating conflict, both in public meetings and on social media, became emblematic of an administration defined more by its controversies and clashes than its achievements. This left Dolton and Thornton Township deeply polarized, struggling to navigate the turmoil created by Henyard's combative governance.
The meeting wrapped up early because two trustees, as you mentioned, did not show up: Chris Gonzalez and Carmen Carlisle. Without them, not enough board members were present to make official decisions.
Claims that Henyard had started to alienate key allies within her own administration added fuel to the fire. Over time, several former supporters, including trustees who had previously backed her initiatives, turned against her, accusing her of concentrating power at the expense of transparency and cooperation. Her former assistant, Carmen Carlisle, also became a vocal critic, alleging that Henyard regularly ignored established protocols to push her own agenda, and that she ruled within its my way or the highway mentality. In a recent interview, Carlisle emphasized how these internal divisions further alienated Henyard, fostering a climate of mistrust and disorder that only deepened the rift within her administration. As tensions between Henyard and the board escalated, trustees were accused of avoiding board approval for critical decisions, including the appointment of key executives. One such decision was the hiring of Ronald Burge as the head of Dalton's police department, which became a flashpoint. Burge, whose state certification was reportedly inactive at the time, was accused of being unqualified for the position. The trustees argued that Henyard's unilateral decision to appoint him was illegal, but a judge ruled to allow Burge to serve in an interim capacity. This appointment only served to exacerbate the rift between Henyard's administration and the township, with some residents and business owners coming forward to share stories of being negatively impacted by the decision. Several business owners claimed to have been singled out by the administration. One business owner alleged that his company was shut down for refusing to donate to Henyard's campaign, while another accused Henyard of using the Dalton Police Department as her personal enforcement squad, harassing opponents and critics. Even Henyard's former assistant, Carmen Carlisle, turned against her, calling herself a whistleblower and accusing Henyard of running the township like her own personal fiefdom. Carlisle, once one of Henyard's closest allies, turning on her was a significant blow. However, the most startling charges were those related to Henyard's management of township finances. Trustees accused her of falsifying checks and concealing financial data to bypass board authorization. The township, once believed to have a healthy surplus, was found to be millions of dollars in debt. A preliminary report from former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot, hired to investigate the township's finances, further uncovered the extent of the mismanagement. The financial situation painted a grim picture of mismanagement and a lack of oversight. However, Henyard dismissed the report as a political hit piece, accusing her critics of hate, jealousy, and conspiracy. One former trustee described the situation as a shell game and called for Henyard to pay back what was owed to every citizen. In one particularly memorable Facebook Live video, Henyard addressed her critics directly, calling them prejudiced and vowing to fight back. "I'm coming for everyone, for defaming my name, defaming my character, and this conspiracy to destroy Tiffany Henyard." Despite the mounting controversies, she remained defiant, holding public events like turkey giveaways and holiday parties, using these occasions to defend her record and rally her supporters. Meanwhile, as Henyard focused on social media self-defense, federal investigators reportedly began their probe earlier this year, questioning witnesses and gathering information. As the FBI quietly built its case, supporting financial data from both Dalton and Thornton Township was gathered. The investigation expanded to include Henyard's political committee and charity, with authorities probing allegations of money laundering and misuse of public funds. The arrest of one of Henyard's top allies earlier this year was seen as a pivotal moment, with many speculating that he had agreed to cooperate with authorities in exchange for leniency. As news of Henyard's arrest spread, reactions from the community were swift and polarized. Supporters expressed shock and disbelief, with some accusing the FBI of targeting Henyard because she was a young black woman in a position of power. One supporter argued that while critics saw the arrest as long overdue, it was finally time someone held her accountable for allegedly running this town. For years, Henyard was seen as running Dalton and Thornton Township like her own personal kingdom. One supporter remarked, "I keep telling y'all, you'll never find another person like her." But with the mayor now in federal custody, what does this arrest mean for the future of Dalton and Thornton Township? As the dust settles, one thing is certain: the political landscape of the south suburbs is about to change drastically. Both trustees and residents are calling for new leadership, while some worry that the scandal will tarnish the community's reputation. "We need to rebuild trust and restore integrity to our local government," one resident said.